Hey there, Jordan Chariton live. It is Tuesday, April 5th. The year is 2022. I hope everybody's having a lovely day right here in the United Corporations of America. Big show with Steve Grumbine joining us in a minute. Nancy Pelosi is a corrupt neoliberal silence of the political lambs on the historic Amazon victory. And I think we're going to find out why. There is also a Biden has extended the student loan repayment another 3 months rather than just canceling the damn thing. I think this is the third or fourth time he has extended the moratorium. So we'll get into that. Tennessee is now trying to legalize child marriage. Yeah, gotta love these cultural wars. And the New York Times cheering about the booming economy. So we'll get into that. Joining me, the great Steve Grumbine, real progressives. Steve, how you doing in these trying times?
I'm hanging in there, man. I'm hanging in there. Hanging in there, man.
I can't wait for your thoughts on all these topics. But first, by the way, smash the like button, thumbs up right under you. Share this live stream. Like button, very important. Super chats, welcome. We'll read them at the end. So, Steve, I don't know. It seems like the Democratic Party was very loud, all in unison, against those Chicago teachers over their COVID strike. There wasn't any hesitance to speak out on that, to get those teachers back in school. But it's really been, particularly from Nancy Pelosi, really been silence of the political lambs on the historic Amazon victory, which I covered on the ground on Friday. We got 35 new members in a few days. So new Status Coup members this Thursday. So 2 days from now, 7 o'clock Eastern will be our monthly members call through Zoom. So if you're a new Status Coup member, you'll be getting the email on Thursday to join us through Zoom. You could close your mic if you don't want to. You could close your video if you just want to listen and not be seen. Usually go for an hour or two. Join us if you're not already a member to support real on-the-ground reporting. But Steve, Nancy Pelosi is quiet as a mouse on this historic victory. San Francisco's SF Gate, which is a kind of an indie outlet in San Francisco, notes Nancy Pelosi, most other California Democrats in Congress have been silent on the Amazon union vote. And I was thinking, why wouldn't she just put out the customary non-sincere, congratulations on your right to unionize, and then go back to just making money? But then it just dawned on me, check her stocks. And what do you know? This is from the New York Post. This is from the New York Post in a couple months ago. Nancy Pelosi makes millions off tech stocks and scoffs at push to ban congressional trades. And one of those tech stocks, let me find the Amazon part here. Capital gains and dividends from their holdings, Pelosi and her husband, in just 5 big tech firms, Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, reaped the Pelosi's at least $5.6 million and up to $30.4 million between 2007 and 2020, according to analysis of publicly available disclosures. So could be 5 million, could be 30 million. And then
that gig.
And then this from Market Insider, Nancy Pelosi discloses her husband spent $5.52 million on Amazon and Facebook stock. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul, bought 3,000 shares of Amazon and 5,000 shares of Facebook in January. She disclosed the Paul Pelosi investor used call options to buy the shares at prices below where the market was trading at that date. So, AOC has rightly got a lot of grief for coming in at the last minute and, cheering on the Amazon labor victory, even though she left them high and dry. But at least she said something at some point. Not breaking news, Steve, but kind of makes you wonder. Democratic leadership, Pelosi was silent during this campaign, and now won't say a word during this victory, probably because they think they might lose money if unionization spreads throughout the country at Amazon?
Dude, you are the ultimate, man, because you can keep like a straight face through this, and like I'm just like cracking up. I mean, this is why they get elected, man. This is why they go to Congress, right? Because if they don't do this stuff, how else are they going to get fat and happy? I mean, they are literally, you're not supposed to go to Congress to get rich. It's not the place you're supposed to go to get rich. And I know they were already rich before they got there, but my God, this is like ridiculous. Anyway, you're a mensch, man. To be able to keep that straight face through this is just epic, because I literally can't even stop laughing. I mean, it is like, it's just predictable. And the worst thing is, people will sit there and try and tell you, what do you want, Trump? When you talk about Pelosi, they're literally a level of like retrograde that will literally sit there and ask you if you want Trump as you're pointing this out. We deserve this, man. We kind of deserve this if that's the kind of level of discourse that passes for political, commentary or understanding. I mean, hats off to you for like being able to bust this out there, because seriously, I don't think most people even give a shit. Unfortunately, they will literally just go through the motions during the next election cycle. They'll hit the button, do whatever, and they'll say, what do you want, a Republican? And that'll be the end of it. That's as deep a dive as most will even go. It's scary. It's terrifying. It literally is the Hunger Games, as you call it.
Can I say, I mean, obviously Trump is horrendous, but what is the difference between Pelosi and Trump? At least on your wallet, at least on labor rights. What the hell is the difference? Trump was making money hand over fist through the White House. His kids, Jared, Don Jr., Ivanka. Well, Jared's not his kid, but Jared and Ivanka made billions in their advisor roles at the White House. Pelosi's husband is living off her teat in Congress. She is basically get insider trading based on information she has on Amazon, Facebook, and Google. So economically, and most importantly on labor rights, there is no real difference. And I would also say, and this came out after, this is from The Intercept, after Amazon loses, historic victory for the workers, which, by the way, can I just say, I'll brag a little bit. I try not to. Fuck these Johnny-come-lately media people who are now like doing like how Christian Smalls took down Amazon, like acting like they covered this from the beginning. I covered it from the beginning. Status Coup covered it from the beginning. I was out there in June of last year. I was out there in the hot. I was out there in the cold. I was out there in storms under that tent, speaking with the workers when it was not going viral, because these stories don't go viral, when it was not sexy, when YouTube was suppressing it, because anything with, I didn't even put Amazon in the headline because YouTube suppresses it. They suppress Amazon, Flint, Assange, etc. But screw these people who come in Johnny-come-latelys and pretend they covered this all along. Status Coup was the only independent outlet out there at the warehouse covering this, interviewing workers once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, breaking as we went, the rampant union busting, workers being carted off on stretchers because of the heat, workers, they literally having to shit with union busting signs in front of them, workers being called thugs by union busting consultants. That was Status Coup. So I just want to make clear for these other outlets. Anyway,
Yeah, absolutely. I want to go back to the last time we were on here together, and we were watching a video clip of Nancy Pelosi talking about the 40-mile line of tanks that she would love to just put in her sites and just blow them up. I'm telling you right now, it's not just the economics that she's a kindred to. And I mean, seriously, look at who she is and what she is. Don't even tell me about Donald Trump. I mean, he's horrible. Sure, I don't even want to hear that fucker's name. I'm looking at this and I'm saying, folks, this is your Democratic Party. This is your lefty, fake, lefty group that you kind of prop up like it's the last vestige of hope. And there she is talking about bombing the shit out of tanks. She's sitting there raking in money off of Amazon. She's sitting there every possible thing you could hate, she's doing. And it's got a big ginormous D next to her name. She's the Speaker of the House. And that is your Democratic Party. Please don't gaslight me anymore with Democratic platitudes. This is your Democratic Party. Boom,
And by the way,
that's your leadership.
By the way, if you think this is spicy from Steve, come Thursday at 5:00 Eastern time for Let's Get Ready to Grumble. Steve Grumbine's Power Hour, Thursdays at 5:00. Steve has his own show now. So let me also say, she's quiet as a mouse on this historic victory. She's also quiet. I mean, this came out. She's got people to send her articles. Amazon's response to the union victory so far, I think they're going to challenge it. I also think they're going to probably fire workers like Starbucks has been doing. Amazon has now banned, this is from The Intercept, certain words in the digital chat. Words including union, the worker chat, where workers can ask questions, concerns, this and that. You cannot, if you're an Amazon worker, you can't talk union, restrooms, pay raise, and plantation. Also banned grievance, slave labor, this is dumb, living wage, diversity, and vaccine, among other things. So Amazon, they're basically banning even discussion on worker rights, on labor, any information now that the Amazon Labor Union has been victorious. If they want to put in information to the digital message board about the next election coming up, how people can get more information, events, fundraising events they're having, you can't put any of that in there. The slave labor one was really something, because this is at least the Staten Island warehouse that was just victorious. This is majority Black and brown workers at this warehouse. I don't expect her to say much about that either. Not just her, but Biden didn't even say anything about this. Jen Psaki, his press secretary and future MSNBC anchor, you just can't make this stuff up. She gave a very low decibel response.
The golf clap.
I mean, none of this is breaking news, of course, but it just shows you why labor has been crushed over the last 40 years. 100% Republicans, Chamber of Commerce, the Koch brothers, Reagan. But then you had the Democratic Leadership Council and Bill Clinton, Obama, NAFTA, TPP. A lot of these labor unions basically to curry favor with the Democratic Party, not doing what they should have been doing either. And then you have people like Pelosi others are invested up to the T's in Amazon. I mean, we would say this about like a third world country, call it a banana republic, and beyond corrupt. They say this about Russia because it's certainly corrupt in Russia and the oligarchs. But here, this is just capitalism, Steve.
Listening to Elon Musk not too long ago bragging about, hey, please bring the union here to my floor, right? I mean, he obviously understands that even if they were to do something in his state, and they're not because it's Texas, and he to his credit, he does pay those people a fairly nice wage. But the fact of the matter is that they have no support in Congress whatsoever. There is no support anywhere. But AOC, with all due respect to those who love and admire all the progressive heroes, the squad, etc., I'm asking you to think about something. I'm asking you to consider, even if they're good people and they're just getting run over by the machine, what do you have to show for it? What do you have to show for it right now? What have they prevented from happening? What have they done to make happen? I'm asking you this not because they are all powerful, not because they are the ones that can wave a wand and make it happen. I'm asking you because obviously whatever they've done and whatever we think we've done to get them there hasn't done anything. Nothing. Zip, zero, zilch. So what are we going to do differently going forward? And I got to tell you, I see folks ready to just start phone banking their butts off, door knocking their asses off, and voting as hard as they can. And I'm telling you right now, it's wash, rinse, repeat. We must do something different if you want to see change. Whatever that different is, I don't believe you're going to vote your way to the finish line. I believe that's a part of it. But you better realize you have wash, rinse, repeat for your entire life, and you have seen nothing get accomplished other than the rich get richer. Think about it. Don't let go of that. Don't go back to brunch. Don't go back to sleep. Stay focused on that, because people like Pelosi do this because they know there's nothing. When I say nothing, I mean there is nothing that will happen to them. Not one single thing. Not one.
Right. By the way, folks, we got 250 people watching. I need 100 more of you to press that like button. Thumbs up. Do it for Steve and his beautiful red background. Thumbs up. Smash that like button. It makes a difference in YouTube's rigged algorithm, which I'll get into later because Twitter's pissing me off too. But you just made a really good point, Steve. I think, she's definitely corrupt. She's not going to boost Amazon's historic labor. And by the way, just so you know, because Steve, you're a student of history, no disrespect to Starbucks at all. They're doing great stuff, historic. To me, this victory is the biggest victory in the labor movement, possibly this century. I was wrong, actually. This is like a 7,000 to 8,000 person warehouse. I was saying 6,000. 150% turnover. This was David first 20 Goliaths, and they were victorious. Historic, absolutely historic. And that's why I also think, in addition to not going against her own bottom line by revving up the union stuff, that people like Pelosi don't want to do anything about this, or a good politician would look at this and then, off the momentum, propose legislation, push the PRO Act, right? Hey, look at this. They did this without the PRO Act. We could have a lot more victories if we had the PRO Act. Or looking at Starbucks firing workers. They just fired another union organizer the other day who I'm trying to get an interview with. But they don't want to, because they realize when you're talking about we could do this another way, well, this is another way. I'm not saying totally disregard elections, but this is a direct way for workers to go outside the political system and take matters into their own hands. And they don't like that. Pelosi don't like that. McConnell and his turkey neck don't like that. Jim Cramer on CNBC don't like that. They don't want Pandora's box to be opened.
You and I have talked about this so many times. Nihilism is destroying this movement, right? So the alternative to voting or not voting is not nihilism. It's not, it's impossible, we can't do anything. The answer is always, we have to do something different. You have to see the problem as it is, not as you wish it would be. And what you can see clearly is moneyed interests are blocking anything and everything you want, period. It's not a question. If you still have questions, let's talk offline, because I got to get you ramped up to the current. This is not changing without something fundamentally changing. And Jordan, you and I have also talked about the need for a general strike. We've talked about targeted boycotts. We've talked about direct action. We've talked about a number of things. But what it comes down to, in my opinion, we are so steeped in the political process, so steeped in the electoral cycle, that the only thing we know how to organize for are candidates. We don't realize that it is important to maintain power in between elections. We must have collaboration, communication, and we must have demands. We must have the ability to organize outside of the electoral process, because the electoral process, even if you're able to win 2 or 3 of these great progressive battles, the Republicans going back 40 plus years, back to even 50, going back to the Mount Pelerin Society, have been organizing at the state level to take over judgeships, to take over state houses, to take over school boards, to take over every aspect of government from the ground up. They're not stupid enough to think you can pass national policy at the state level, but they recognize the import of taking over those things, because that's where laws are made. That's where real change happens. And they've been doing it now for 50 years. The left can't get out of its own way. It keeps folding back into the center-right duopoly, and it doesn't take its own power seriously. This is what those external think tanks, those external organizing did for the right wing. And they have been highly successful in dismantling and running game on all of us. If we don't take a page from their book and take this very seriously, we're screwed, folks. You're watching it happen right in front of you. This Pelosi thing, the actual organizing of these workers is an incredibly important, though small, it is huge in terms of showing us, yes, we can do stuff. And it's important to realize the Democrats have not supported them. They have not, they've maybe waved a flag here or there, done a photo op, but they haven't actually supported them.
Oh, Steve,
So
it's worse than not supporting them. Literally, one of the top Democratic polling firms was contracted by Amazon to help them push the union busting pamphlets and signage and strategy. This came out the other day, and a Biden super PAC used this Democratic polling firm. New York Governor Kathy Hochul, she uses this Democratic polling firm. Literally was contracted by Amazon, paid millions to union bust. So don't get it twisted, folks. It's not like Republicans are your friends too. But the point is, with Democrats like this, you don't have an opposition party. And the other thing I'll say, Steve, as a journalist, I can tell you this. It's for anything labor, worker, it's tough to get workers on the record, right? It's always been tough. This has been the hardest story, other than the union organizers. This has been the hardest story for me to get workers on the record. I'll give an example. I won't give such details because this worker didn't want to go on the record because they're in fear of Amazon. They don't have a lot of other options and they're in fear of losing their job, even though they're being badly mistreated. But there was a worker a couple months ago got hit by a car outside the Staten Island warehouse. Other workers, including union organizers, brought this worker back in. Amazon put her behind like a thin sheet and wouldn't let union organizers come there. They had her filling out like a piece of paperwork. You know, you go to a chiropractor, like put a dot where it hurts. And we're basically trying to get her to sign something, I think, to waive liability. And finally, a union organizer stormed back there, demanded that Amazon call an ambulance. Amazon would not call an ambulance. And the union organizer said, then you need to call this worker's emergency contact. The union organizer's emergency contact happened to be the person's uncle at Amazon who was at work. The uncle comes flooding in and calls an ambulance. So I could not get that worker on the record because even though they probably had a lawsuit, they were deathly afraid of losing their job because a lot of these workers are younger or older and just don't have many other options. So I believe what the political class is also worried about is victories like this kind of start peeling back the capitalist-induced fear. Maybe make workers start speaking out more. Maybe say, you know what? They won. Maybe I'll unionize or try to unionize. It's kind of like, you know, Game of Thrones. You feel like you build the wall high enough that nobody could get in, but then when you see there's a crack, holy shit! The Night Walkers are coming. You know, your final thoughts on this?
It looks like we need to become zombie dragons and burn their wall down. I mean, ultimately, we have to be able to take what we know and not flush it. We've got to hold on to this knowledge. The things that have been said here, this can't be just like a fart in the wind. It's got to literally stick, and we've got to start building from this. Don't let their work hinder us as a movement, because we've tried the electoral process. You've already door knocked. Your knuckles are bleeding. You've already phone banked. Your fingernails are broken off from dialing. You've already wasted so much time. You're probably already divorced. Your kids are grown door knocking and phone banking. It's time to support where you're seeing energy. And that's this union movement. That is organizing beyond the duopoly and not allowing it to be co-opted. Really remember this moment. Really remember these moments and take action. Don't be afraid to lean in and organize. This is the time. That's my thoughts, man. I hope I'm right, but that's where I'm at, Jordan. I don't see a path otherwise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And segue from one corrupt Democrat to another. And by the way, we're going to get to the Republicans later because Tennessee is now trying to legalize child marriage. So that's great. We have to cover that. That's insane. But again, Steve, kicking the can down the road, possibly because Biden and his brilliant people around him think that just continually extending the student loan repayment will help them with young people in the midterms. I don't think so. I've seen a lot of tweets today that this latest extension is actually pissing. Oh, they're happy they don't have to repay it back, but people can't live this way where they don't, the deadlines are constantly changing. They're trying to plan ahead for how are they going to pay certain bills when I thought repayment was going to start right now. So Biden administrations from CNBC expected to extend payment pause for student loan borrowers through August. This would be the 6th extension of the pandemic era relief policy, staying loan payments for the tens of millions. I mean, at this point, likely to extend it again past the midterms because it seems to be a political thing at this point. And keep those super chats coming. We're going to read them at the end. Thank you, Kami John, and thank you to Double K for the great super chats. We'll read them at the end. But I don't really get this. I don't really get it. It just doesn't make, well, I get it. Actually, I do get it. But they're not stupid, even though they're corrupt. They do have polls that show if you just cancel the debt, forget policy going forward for school, just cancel the debt, retroactive. I mean, I think you'd have a tsunami of young people come out in support. Not so much of Biden, but just like, thank you, we'll support you. Yeah. You probably could get more grassroots donations on the Bernie model for canceling student debt. But to me, it seems that the Wall Street donors that they're heavily relying on to fund their governor's campaigns and senatorial campaigns and congressional campaigns, they don't want that student debt canceled. Also, lobbyists don't want that student loan debt canceled. The universities that donate a lot of money to the Democratic Party and Republican Party don't want that student loan debt canceled. And another person doesn't want that student loan debt canceled. This clip is so cringe. Got to play it. Let's play Megyn Kelly's thoughts.
Pelosi was saying, I mean, not that anybody cares what she has to say in response to anything, but that was her push in response to these polling numbers and inflation and so on. She was like, if we could just stick to the agenda, get BBB passed, push this stuff through, and get rid of college debt for all, college students. She's back. She's a one-trick pony. Everything should be free. We should go back to our socialist roots. And then the Democrats won't be facing a bloodbath in November. And all these numbers will turn around. Free college for everyone. Didn't you guys have somebody pay for your college? I think about it in my own life. My audience knows that my dad died suddenly when I was 15 of a heart attack. And my mom already had 2 kids in college at that point. My brother and sister are older than I am. They're in college. She's trying to, he was only 45. We weren't rich to begin with. So it's not like he had some big fat life insurance policy. He had the bare minimum you have when you're in your 40s and you're a professor, which is what he was. Anyway, what did she do? She used the entirety of that payment to pay for the rest, what she could, of my brothers and sisters' college and my college education. And all 3 of us had to take out loans on top of it, of course. So, do I think now that, I would have been better off if the federal government had stepped in? Look, it would have been nice, but I don't think the neighbors should have to pay for my college education. My mom made a sacrifice. She could have been living off of that money. Suddenly she didn't have a, 2-income home, but she used it to help her children. That's what parents do. They scrimp and they save and they do what's necessary to pay for things like education. And we took out loans too. And then we paid those loans back. Why should these snot-nosed kids today, I'm sorry, the ones who really need it, they can get loans, right? But like you point out, a lot of these people are going to be these sort of college, Columbia elite graduates who are going to spend their years in journalism trying to shame half of America for doing absolutely nothing wrong. Why should I be paying for their college education? I don't want to.
Jordan, can I just pistol whip this?
Take it, baby.
I'm losing my mind. Folks, you think that I'm like a one-trick pony talking about modern monetary theory. And I'm cool with that because you know what? Everything you're hearing about here can be described by it. That debt, the reason why Biden can keep kicking the can down the road is because that debt could be wiped out with a pen stroke right now without even an act of Congress. Biden could do it himself. That's how easy this is. The United States creates its own money, and these are all federal loans that are taken care of by the federal government. She said it would be nice. She said it would be nice. Megyn Kelly, the loser extraordinaire, said it would be nice to have had it written
Santa's
off.
not white, folks. Santa's not white.
This is ridiculous. Do you understand? Ultimately, we could literally wipe this off the books, unburden every kid coming out of college, white, black, brown, everything, you name it, gone, wiped away for free. And it's not socialist. It's called the United States government spends money into existence when it bombs people, spends money to existence when it builds a road, spends money into existence when it builds a school, spends money into existence, period. Every time money gets spent by Congress, it's brand new freaking money. This is not some theory. It's real. It's freaking real. It's not your tax dollars either. And you wouldn't have to pay a nickel. Not one penny, not a cent for somebody else's student debt. Not one. They could wipe it out without you ever having to. In fact, they could cut taxes while they did it. That's how irrelevant taxes are to paying for student debt. Eliminate the shit. When a dollar comes back to the government, it's deleted. The government has no use for old money. It spends new money every single time. Every time. This is not theory. Understand it, please, because this is why groups like the Debt Collective are out there screaming every single day. Biden, you could write this off yesterday. David Sirota today. It's like, what kind of sick, perverse idea is this to keep kicking the can down the road? We could pay it all off today. We could eliminate it yesterday. We could have never had it. This is the problem. It's the same exact hole that we got in with FDR back with Social Security. He made you believe you were paying into a trust fund. And so now all of a sudden everybody's like, oh no, they raided Social Security. Wherever will we get the money? It's the same freaking place you get the money to wipe out student debt. The government creates it out of thin air and it wipes it out when it taxes, period. Folks, they are literally doing this to us to keep us as slaves. No joke, debt slaves. And because of our own ignorance, because of our own lack of understanding of how the system works, we allow them to do it to us and we act like we're good people for paying it off. Do you understand how foolish that is? I'm telling you right now, it is a fool's errand. We need a real, honest to God, student debt strike. Talk about a student debt strike and not pay the fuckers back. And watch, nothing will happen. Nobody will go broke. Nobody won't get their paycheck. Nothing will happen because the government doesn't need your money. I'm telling you, folks, trust me, they don't need your money. They create it. Why do they need your money? The country's not going broke because they didn't get your tax dollar.
Right.
The
And by the
taxes
way,
are deleted.
And by the way, either directly or indirectly, because Megyn Kelly was talking about, why should my neighbor have to pay for your snot-nosed college? I don't think she minds her neighbor having to pay for subsidies to ExxonMobil, subsidies to Goldman Sachs, subsidies to Pfizer, subsidies to Lockheed Martin, subsidies to fucking, name your corrupt company and special interests. I also don't think she minds that her neighbor has to pay through cuts to local services so that we could give tax breaks on the local level to Disney World in Florida and name your defense contractor in Virginia. So she's a privileged white snot. And I'm sorry that her father died when she was young, but I'm pretty sure the price of college was a lot less money back when she went to college. I'm pretty sure that the interest rate on the student loan she took out was a lot more favorable to pay back. So this is, it's not just her. I mean, this is the mentality of, the oligarchy. And I agree with the student strike, but let's not think that nothing would happen, because they would use the police, I think, if enough people did it.
They'll crack down on us. There's no question they'll crack down on us. But what I'm saying is nobody's going to go broke because you don't pay those debts. I'm telling you right now, that money, all they're doing with this stuff is literally fattening the fat cats that service the loans. The loan servicing companies peel off a small percentage, a high volume servicing. All these groups like Nelnet and all FIA, all of them, they literally get like this tiny little percentage, but they service so many millions of loans that tiny shaving of a penny is what fuels and funds their system. FIA alone had so much money left over that they were like, hey, who do we give this away to? They were trying to donate the money they got because they're a nonprofit too. They don't keep it for profit. So, I mean, it is such a freaking scam. It is not even funny. And go to the Levy Institute, and look up the student debt proposal by Stephanie Kelton, Pavlina Chernova, Randy Ray, and others. It is remarkable. The economic impact of unburdening every child. And in fact, think about how many of us old farts went back to school when the economy collapsed in 08 and 09, trying to redefine ourselves and reinvent ourselves after we lost careers of 20 years or more, trying to find a way to be relevant in a society that's moving a million miles faster than we were when we were going to school. And all of a sudden, all that debt that's laying on people that are in their 50s and 60s that have no prayer of ever paying it back. I mean, think about what this means. This is not some passive thing. This is a huge thing. And we need to get rid of it, dude. We need to get rid of it badly, really badly. And there's good plans out there to do exactly that. And Biden could sign that shit away instantly, and
Right.
gone. That's how easy this could be.
And also, there's another element. Goes to what I said about Pelosi. Besides her corruption, they don't want to really build off Amazon's victory because, frankly, all right, then people might start feeling, well, maybe we should turn our attention to Medicare for all because we won this, or things like that. In this case, if Biden canceled the student loan debt, which might save his presidency, save Democrats' majority, then these same activists galvanize, start shifting to, all right, free public college. And they don't want to do that either because those big universities and big Wall Street firms that are invested, it's all one hamster wheel of a scam, and we're the victims. I was lucky enough; I got like 10 grand from my college, so I didn't have to take out loans. But it was very expensive, and I'll just say, to me, if you actually care about winning, which I'm not convinced the Democratic Party does. I mean, young people are your ticket to winning, to offset losses and, the white working class that is moving over to Republicans. Young people are your ticket. College students are your ticket. Young professionals are your ticket. And if they care about winning, they would do what you're saying. But again, I think they're more concerned with keeping the system intact of corruption than keeping the White House and majorities.
Yeah, I want to say one more thing about this. Going back to 08 and 09, I want you to remember so many people were driving 4 and 5 hours to just go get a job at Walmart because the work was just not there. The entire economy had bottomed out. So people were having to go to school and take out even more loan so that they could afford to keep their home. They weren't just taking out tuition, they were taking out living expenses as well, because there was no work and it was the only way to do it. Now, all of a sudden, the debt that they have from a recession, they had no part in playing whatsoever. They had no part in it. But they are carrying the weight of that collapse now, even to this day. I myself had my bachelor's degree covered by the company I worked for. I worked for Verizon at the time. But then when it went to grad school, all of that money, every penny of it, had to come out of pocket. Which is, hey, I made the decision because I thought, why do you get a graduate degree? You get a graduate degree because you think something's there for you at the end of the rainbow. That's what they sell you, the truth in advertising, right? But they don't. There's no work there. They don't have that upward mobility. There is no more climbing the ladder. It doesn't matter what you know, it's who you know. And so this whole idea of strapping people with undischargeable debt, thank you, Joe Biden, okay, this disgusting trait that he signed into law. He's the asshole that architected that to make it so you can't discharge it. Now, all of a sudden, he's not going to sit there and be the one that discharges it because he's the one that wrote it and created the bill to prevent you from doing it to begin with. So just remember that. Just remember who your Democratic Party is. Remember what they've done to you. I'm serious. Remember. Don't forget it. Don't let MSNBC and all the rest of them convince you that they didn't do it. They did. And this is what we're stuck with now. It's time to fight. That's it, Jordan.
Absolutely.
I just need to get that off, man.
Now, moving on to one of my favorite stories of the day. The New York Times is back at it. with the booming economy. The economy is booming. For who, I don't know. Maybe the New York Times headline, the U.S. economy is booming. So why are economists worrying about a recession? There is little sign that a recession is imminent, but sky-high demand and supply shortages are testing the economy's limits. I'll read a little bit. Employers are adding hundreds of thousands of shitty jobs a month, and would hire even more people if they could find them. Consumers are spending, businesses are investing, and wages are rising at their fastest pace in decades. So naturally, economists are warning of a possible recession. Rapid inflation, soaring oil prices, and global instability have led forecasters to sharply lower their estimates of economic growth this year and to raise their probabilities of an outright contraction. Investors share their concern. The bond market last week flashed a warning signal that is often, though not always, foreshadowed a downturn. Such predictions may seem confusing when the economy, by many measures, is booming. The United States has regained more than 90% of the jobs in the early weeks of the pandemic, and employers are continuing to hire at a breakneck pace, adding 431,000 jobs in March alone. The unemployment rate has fallen to 3.6%, barely above the pre-pandemic level, which was itself a half-century low. Before I give my spiel, people I trust, including you, have said, not that, a recession might happen.
It's coming.
It's coming.
Yes, sir. Let me tell you how it works. You've got $1.3 trillion right now that Biden is looking to reduce the deficit by. I just talked about this last week on Let's Get Ready to Grumble. Check out last week. Forgive me for the microphone. Fact of the matter is that we not only have $1.3 trillion in deficit reduction. Think of the bathtub as having a bunch of water in it, and that right there is our economy. Nah, you got it. And what they've done is by reducing 1.3 trillion out of the bathtub, they're draining water out of the bathtub. That's your deficit reduction. It's not like the country is suddenly pocketing that money in fat stacks like Breaking Bad. They are literally deleting that money. So 1.3 is taken out. The economy is no longer surviving by federal spending. Okay. So now what happens? How do you fill that bathtub up? You fill the bathtub up with private debt. So what happens when you get too much private debt? All of a sudden, you've got no other way to get money into the economy. And so now they're jacking up interest rates. The Fed is talking about going 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, all the way up to 1. What does that do? The rich have already gouged the shit out of the economy with inflation and price gouging. Now, all of a sudden, they're going to raise interest rates, which is going to be a basic income for the people that already have money. So the rich are getting richer. And it's going to make the cost of credit for you and I who are desperate to survive. We're going to have to take out loans to survive if we even have credit, if we're even worthy of credit, if we haven't already crashed and burned and become economically non-viable. So at the end of the day, the recession will come unless there's a federal intervention, unless Biden somehow or another does something like eradicate student debt, or even that right now isn't enough because, quite frankly, we're not paying student debt now, and we're already seeing that problem. So we need something to infuse money into the economy. And again, there's only two ways that it happens, really three. One is that the federal government spends money into the economy. Two, you and I take out private debt. Or three, we suddenly become a net exporter. We're not a net exporter, folks. We're a net importer to the tune of about $500 billion a year. So we got a $500 billion balance of payments deficit, if you will, in terms of money leaving the country, in terms of money no longer in the active economy. And then the vast majority of the money that is in the economy is in the fire sector, floating around in stocks and bonds and shitcoin. So what you've done now is you've literally drained the bathtub with demand leakages from savings, from offshoring, from being a net importer, to government cutting off the spigot, to raising interest rates. And what you've got is a financial cauldron for an absolute nuclear bomb, another shit show. And you've watched the price of housing go up. You've watched all the other private interests buying up the goddamn trailer parks even. Folks, pay attention. This is no joke. I mean, I hate knowing this stuff. I almost wish I didn't know this stuff so I didn't have to feel it all day long. But I do. I literally wake up in the morning feeling this and looking around wondering why nobody's panicking like I am. And it's disgusting. It drives me insane. I talk about wishing I could be blind. This is one of those areas where I wish I didn't have a clue. But But unfortunately, I do, folks, and I'm hoping you guys pay attention to this too. That's it, Jordan. That's my take.
And what really drives me through a roof, if you haven't noticed, Status Coup has been doing an economic Hunger Games series, which I'm really proud of. If you are being screwed, if you are being priced out, if you face eviction, if you are, name your economic screw job. I've talked to a senior citizen who's suicidal because her rent went up $800. That interview is up. Just look for the economic Hunger Games in the headline. I just talked to a senior who's rationing rice and beans to afford rent. I talked to an Asian family in Kentucky where the father is literally being threatened with jail time if he doesn't pay the $5,000 fine for uncut grass. I spoke with a young person who literally was on disability because of his multiple muscular dystrophy. He was told by the Indiana whatever department that you're good when he got his job back. You don't have to pay anything back. Told that multiple times. Now he's being told he owes $9,000 and him and his wife are screwed. The list goes on and on. Colin, let's play this clip. This is from my interview earlier. By the way, if you are not seeing our videos, it's because YouTube is not showing them to you. So put it in your calendar and smoke it. We release a video at 1 o'clock Eastern time. That's 10 a.m. Pacific. 5 o'clock Eastern time live stream. 8 o'clock Eastern, our third video of the day. 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, 8 o'clock. The 1 o'clock video, YouTube didn't notify a lot of people. Let's play a clip from this, Colin. This is me interviewing a homeless advocate about essentially the criminalization of homelessness by the Democratic Mayor Eric Adams and her thoughts on the booming economy.
So, yeah.
And can you kind of talk about the bigger picture here? It's not just New York. Homelessness is exploding everywhere. And, you know, currently the president is going out saying we're in the midst of a historic economic recovery. I mean, I go around, it's pretty historically bad for a lot of working class people with the rent and the gas and food. You've been to a lot of these, tent cities. Could you kind of talk about what the reality is compared to, a lot of the fantasy being floated by politicians?
The reality is a lot of these people, they can't even afford to buy a slice of pizza. They don't know where their next meal is coming from. They don't know where they're going to get money for basic necessities. There are a lot of people out here that don't even have a winter coat. They can't even afford to go purchase a winter coat. We just had to do a coat drive because a lot of people are out here in like hoodies or t-shirts because they literally can't afford proper winter clothing. And so they're saying that there's an economy boost, but the economy boost is for people that already have money. They're not talking about working class. A lot of these working class are struggling. It's sad because they're painting this false reality when you walk on the street, you can literally just walk through Soho and like near Tompkins Square Park or Washington Square Park, and you see all of these houseless people begging for money, and it's not them begging because they want to, they're begging because they need to, because even if they do have a job, they can't make the basic needs. This economy boost is only for them. It's not for regular people that actually need it.
Right. And she came on with me right after her appearance on CNN. So it's driving me fucking crazy, Steve, because you know what? This is a cyclical thing. It happens under Bush. It happens under Obama, Trump. We get these narratives. The economy is bouncing back because of artificial numbers like the unemployment rate and GDP and the stock market. When if you go around, I mean, people that were formerly doing good are now having to leave their apartments, not just in cities, even in more rural area, prices are going up. And we're being fed because it's politically advantageous when the job numbers come out. Biden crowing about a historic recovery, and the Republicans will do the same thing when they're back in office. When meanwhile, on the ground, I don't know, wages have gone up slightly, but inflation has gone up more. I don't think it's much different than it has been for the last 40 years.
No, it's stagflation. I mean, I'm just checking out the chat, and what's a little sad about this is because there's these narratives, these separate narratives about the Fed, and people get spun around the axle because they want to be James Bond. It's more spicy on the tongue, I guess. I don't know. The fact of the matter is that Nancy Pelosi is in charge of the House, which has the power of the purse. Period. Article 1, Section 8, right there. Article 1, Section 8. And so Congress alone has the power of the purse. They create money out of thin air by writing it into a bill. You can't create inches and pounds. The bottom line is the Fed keystrokes them into the Treasury's accounts. Okay? It's keystrokes. We're not talking about some major thing. They are an agent of the goddamn Congress. Period. Congress is a corrupt system. Congress is a bunch of corrupt people that are on the take. You want to end Congress? Okay, fine. You want to end the Fed? Give me a fucking break. Jesus Christ, learn how it works. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that ultimately when you have neoliberals in Congress and you have neoliberals running the Fed because they're appointed by Congress and appointed by the president and so forth, and you have a neoliberal system behaves as a neoliberal system does. In order to have different people running it, you got to have different people in office, but you got to be able to get them in office. And if you can't get them in office, you're not going to have any of the things that we're talking about come to be. So all this stuff, the economic Hunger Games that Jordan's showing you there, it is highly dependent on you shedding the conspiracies, because what's happening is bad enough. It's really, really freaking bad. Okay. But you got to understand that the problem here is not whether or not the Federal Reserve is the one keystroking inches into the system, or whether Congress or the Treasury is keystroking digits into the system, or whether it's on a card, or whether it's whatever. The bottom line here is that Congress alone spends money into existence by law. Congress is not doing its job. Well, it is doing its job. It's just not for you and I. We're not the key market. It's the people above. It's capital. And it's been baked into the Constitution from day one. I'm hoping that you all will take the time to realize that the real James Bond novel is happening in the streets as people are starving, or as people are getting kicked out of their homes. That's where the real James Bond novels happen. And you really need to be focused on that, because that's where it needs to be. The Fed and all this other stuff, that right there is just spicy talk for the midnight, hey, I've had too many tokes off the bong, creature from Jekyll Island crap. Use that as kindling for your next fire. There is real information out there. Don't get sucked into bullshit, really, for real. Focus instead on helping these people out. And the way you're going to do that is by understanding that Congress alone can change it instantly. And they're not. And they're not. And that's where the key is. That's the key. Focus there.
Absolutely. Finally, Steve, I wish we didn't have to talk about this. A lot of people think these culture wars are a distraction, but they're hurting people, and we should care. If we're progressives or just good people, we need to stay on this. And I think it's connected to economics, because I think Republicans are pushing this crazy shit to distract people from the economic Hunger Games. But in the latest version of just let's go back to prehistoric times, Tennessee Republicans have put forward a bill that would eliminate age requirement for marriages for heterosexual couples. Interesting. This is, Colin, if you have this one, it's from VKRN.com. A proposal making its way through the state legislature would establish a common law marriage between one man and one woman. Opponents of the bill say it would eliminate an age requirement and in some instances open the door for a cover-up of child sex abuse. The bill sponsor, Tom Leatherwood, said the law being considered would add a new marriage option for Tennesseans. Quote, so all this bill does is give an alternative form of marriage for those pastors and other individuals who have a conscientious objection to the current pathway to marriage, which is you have to be 17 to get married in Tennessee. But missing from the bill are age requirements, opening the door for possible child marriages, something the bill sponsor acknowledged during a Children and Family Affairs subcommittee. There is not an explicit age limit. Representative Mike Stewart, who sits on the subcommittee the bill passed, said he doesn't understand the motivation. I don't think any normal person thinks we shouldn't have an age requirement for marriage. He added it could open up the possibility to cover up child sex abuse. Quote, it should not be there, as it's basically a get out of jail free card for people who are basically committing statutory rape. I mean, you just can't make it up. I want to read this tweet, which I think kind of sums it up. New Tennessee Republicans are advancing a bill that create a separate privileged class of marriage for heterosexual couples, acting as a loophole to the Supreme Court's legalization of gay marriage. The bill would also legalize child marriage by eliminating age requirements. You know, I got to say, I don't have children yet, but what scares me, Steve, any living, breathing, sensible, effective political party should be destroying these dangerous fascist fuckers who want like 10-year-olds to get married. Literally. Some of these people are old enough to have grandkids. They're pushing laws where their grandkids could get married to, I don't know, politicians. It's just disgusting. And I'm sure it will pass. Ron DeSantis just signed the Don't Say Gay bill, which, yes, that's what it is. I covered it down in Florida. And I don't know. I kind of understand. I don't agree with it, but I kind of understand like the woke stuff. Like, hey, let's pass all this shit to outlaw critical race theory, even though it's not being taught in schools because it will gin up our, bigoted base. But I don't really get like, where is the base for child marriage? Maybe there is a base for child marriage and I just haven't met them yet.
I think there's just a case for rich people going after young people and being able to have an excuse now, a get out of jail free card. I think that's really what it comes down to. I mean, when you have the world and you can afford anything, what do you not have? You want to be a god. And so here they are, they get to play God. And that's what it's really about, man. I can't imagine any other thing, but you nailed it. I think the first go round when you said that ultimately they need to gin up that freaking socially regressive group of people to get them hyped up and amped up for their faux elections that they're going to throw so that they can get them all hot around the collar and get them out there motivated to fight back against the woke culture. I mean, you're right. Nobody's teaching CRT in school. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous, but they're doing it. They're passing these laws just so that they can have some chum in the water because they got nothing else. I mean, to be fair, Democrats are giving them plenty of ammo to get up just to totally just disavow them. So I don't see what the big deal is. I mean, ultimately, they're going to do insane things because that's what insane people do. But it's really there, I believe, to do two things. Number one, to free up the oligarchs who would like to get laid by the youth of today and not be called a pedophile. And now all of a sudden they got a pathway to doing that. And the flip side is they just want to gin up some crazy people to get them to the polls. So I think that's probably it.
Right. But to me, I mean, the big deal is this can bring us back to feudal times and like
we're already there, man.
Arrange marriages and like,
yes.
This kingdom, the 14-year-old marries, I don't know, the uncle. It's bizarre.
We are already there on the economic side. We're already there in landlording. We're already there in the way that the work is going now. I mean, Jordan, all that's left is the social fabric to bring us back to neo-feudalism. I mean, this is a new age, modern, gilded age for the wealthy, and they want to be able to have what they want to have, and it's going to happen. I mean, these things are going to continue to happen. It's just this is the new gilded age. We're just not the gilded ones.
And by the way, can I just say, Republicans are very concerned about life, in the womb. But then when you're out, go fuck yourself. I'll sell, you could get married at 8 years old. I mean, it's just beyond hypocritical, contradictory, soulless, and
disgusting.
I don't want to sound like Nancy Pelosi, but I'm worried about the children. Can you imagine, like, there's like some 13, 14, 15-year-olds say, I'm in love with this older guy and he wants to marry me. And the parent, I would hope if you have good parents, they would say no, but they can't really do anything about it in this instance. No. And I would argue you're not mature enough to decide whether to get married. You could have a lot of younger women pregnant, and also the LGBTQ aspect of this, because as that tweet showed, This is only for heterosexual couples. And this is also an attempt to change the definition of marriage, circumventing the Supreme Court, which is an attack on LGBTQ people. Colin, if you have the clip, I was down in Florida. YouTube didn't show any of the videos, but I spoke with LGBT people who are suicidal, on antidepressants, and are basically saying Republicans are trying to kill us. Let's take a look.
I mean, Ron DeSantis' own, I don't remember the title, but person, press secretary, yeah, that's right, went on Twitter and said it's an anti-grooming bill. And that is such a blatantly obvious dog whistle to legally enforce this stereotype that has put queer people in danger, that has gotten us killed. That is the reason we have, higher homicide rates, right? So they are putting us in danger, and they know what they're doing, and they say, oh, you're not a parent, like, who are you to judge? And I'm saying, well, I'm a student. I'm the one who would be affected by this. This year, I don't even know I surround myself mostly with queer people, and like everyone I know is suicidal. I'm on antidepressants. Everyone I know has, like, it's
I have
terrible.
a bag of medication.
Yeah, exactly. Every single person is either on antidepressants or like extremely suicidal, and that's where we're at right now. Florida already has the highest LGBTQ suicide rate of any state, and queer teens are 4 times more likely to commit suicide, and they know that because I said that and I was one of hundreds that said that, testifying in the Senate and the House of Representatives. I went door to door talking to senators and representatives, Republican and Democrat, telling them these statistics and telling them personal stories. They heard me, they listened, and they voted for it anyways because they know what they're doing and they are trying to kill us. And no one will say it. Exactly, and no one will say it, but that's what they're trying to do.
So you think
I think it's intentional.
So, yeah. I mean, fortunately, the bill won't sell that 16-year-old to get married because that 16-year-old is gay. But the heterosexual 16-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever, you're open for business. It's just, I understand that a lot of progressives think, Jordan, these are culture wars. Why bother? Because they have real damage. They damage real people. We shouldn't just care. We need to care about human suffering, period. And also, again, I've seen it on the ground. What does the media cover? Not the housing crisis in Florida, the Don't Say Gay bill. Not people being evicted, the Don't Say Gay bill, or the Stop Woke Act. Tennessee, I'm sure it's similar. So it's also, not only is it affecting real people, whether it's LGBTQ, children in this case, but it's also distracting the masses from what's really going on. Any other thoughts, Steve?
Well, I think you hit it on the head right there. I mean, I don't believe you should look at any of these instances in isolation. I think that we spend a lot of time in what we call orphaned politics, where we just focus on this little myopic thing and we fight on that one little thing, and everything else melts down around us. I think this is part of a larger whole. The culture war, it is a distraction at some level, but it has real consequences. But it's used to create massive amounts of blue flame hotspots that allow other things to happen. I mean, think about what's happening in Ukraine and Russia right now. You've got the focus, heavy focus, and rightfully so. War sucks. We should be anti-war. But while that's going on, our government is doing all kinds of shit behind our backs. Everybody's eyes are over there. Shit's happening right here. It's the same thing with those things. It's all important, but it's not important. It's just that it can't be done in isolation. It has to be seen as a part of the whole. And you've got to realize that the larger picture here is that really America is for sale. The mass privatization of everything, including Biden's efforts to privatize Medicare, are happening right under our nose. The student debt issue is right under our nose. All these things all play into this, and these kind of hotbed issues are very important, and they know they're important, so they flare them up right in the middle of something else so other things can happen. And usually those things are massive amounts of sucking of GDP up to the oligarchs while we starve and while we get evicted and while we end up in a lot of pain. And I think that this is also part and parcel with what you said to start the show about Nancy Pelosi and others. This is the mass sucking up, the mass, like just this big vacuum sucking money up from the poors, from the bottom up to the rich. And it's happening before our very eyes. And they're using these moments, these things, because Republicans and Democrats, they both have money. You know, behind the scenes, they're playing golf. This isn't like some real theological, religious experience for them. These people are friends offline, behind the scenes. So many of them they pick up the phone and call each other. This is a lot of political theater, and they know it, and they're getting rich through this process. And you don't have to look very hard to see it happen. So don't discount that pain down there. Suicide's a very real thing, but so is suicide from economic hunger games that you're covering.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide everywhere, hopelessness, where hopelessness is king, suicides follow. And that's what you're seeing right now. And you're covering a lot of good stuff, Jordan, and hats off to you for doing it.
Absolutely. And Steve, I know you got to go make the dinner. I'm going to go off on Twitter, so I'll allow you to leave while I do that. Tell everybody where they could find you, Real Progressives, and he'll be on Status Coup Thursday at 5:00 Eastern. Give a shout out for Real Progressives.
Yeah, so we got Real Progressives, which is our education channel, and we got Real Progress in Action, where I do a lot of the stuff. The Rogue Scholar, I do Monday, Wednesday, Friday at noon Eastern time. Also, Saturday mornings, I release a podcast, and you really, really got to get hip to it, called Macro and Cheese. Begging you, check it out. It's audio only, but it's worth your time. This week, we're going to be covering the e-cash bill, but then the next 3 weeks after that, we're going to be doing a deep dive with the Silk and Steel podcast on Mao from 1900 and the Sino-Japanese War all the way up through 76 when Mao died. So please check it out. And also Luke Parcher on Sundays as well. So please check us out. And Jordan, of course, my Let's Get Ready to Grumble Thursday nights, Status Coup. Check us out. Colin, you the man, buddy. Thank you for helping me make it work. And anyway, thanks for giving me the vine, Jordan. I appreciate it. Love being part of this.
Absolutely, man.
Great place.
Talk
All
to
right,
you,
man. Have a good one. Yep.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Don't go anywhere, because I'm about to go ballistic. Don't go anywhere, because I'm about to go ballistic. But before I go ballistic, public service announcement. Join Status Coup's text list. I don't know if you have the graphic yet, Colin. Join Status Coup's text list. This way, you don't have to worry about YouTube notifying you, because they probably won't notify you when we're live. We send you a text when we're live. Honestly, we have 127,000 subscribers. Based on a poll we just did, my guess is maybe 30 to 40% get notifications for every video or every live stream. That's majority. The majority of our viewers do not know when we're live or do not know when we post a video. That is very difficult in terms of growing a channel, because if views are low because people aren't seeing content, then YouTube will not share it in their algorithm as much, which doesn't give you a chance to get the videos to not new people who aren't subscribed yet. So please consider joining our text list. It's free. All you got to do, go to statuscoup.com/text, enter your number, and you're on our text list. We only text when we're live. There's no other text. You'll get a couple more when we're on the ground reporting, because we go live more when we're on the ground. Sign up, statuscoup.com/text. It costs us more money, because the more people that sign up, we have to pay more, but we'll gladly do it because it helps with the numbers, because sadly, people don't get from YouTube alerts when the channels they subscribe to, even when they click the bell, which you should do. Make sure you click the bell. It's next to the subscriber button for all notifications. If you have clicked the bell for all notifications, go back and make sure they haven't unclicked it for you, because that happens a lot of times. There you go. There's the graphic. Subscribe. Then there's a bell next to it. Click it and press all notifications. But also sign up for our text list, statuscoup.com/text, and share it on your social media. Tell others, sign up for our text list so they can see our live streams. I believe if we grow this text list, we will grow the numbers, and we want to grow. So, speaking of suppression, Status Coup is on Twitter. So if you're not yet following us on Twitter, we're at Status Coup. We're almost at 73,000 followers on Twitter. But we have continually been denied for Twitter verification, the blue check. Now, we don't want the blue check so we could feel cool. Being verified on Twitter actually helps you get your tweets seen more. In our case, get our on-the-ground reporting seen more if we could get that blue check and get verified. It helps with credibility. It helps when you're reaching out for interviews for guests. They could see you're a verified news outlet. We have submitted, I think, 6 or 7 times, but let's just talk about the last 4 months. You could submit once a month. We have submitted 4 months in a row. Twitter's requirement sends your Wikipedia page link and 3 articles that are from the last 6 months showing your news outlet referenced by another verified news outlet. I'm going to just read from my Twitter thread. Okay. So, thread. Twitter has denied Status Coup's verification request for the 4th time in 4 months, saying Status Coup didn't provide evidence of, quote, notability. Twitter's requirement are 3 articles in the last 6 months referencing Status Coup by a verified outlet. We provided that 4 fucking times. 4 times. I highlighted here, this account will not be verified at this time because the evidence provided did not meet our criteria for notability. I showed the articles that we submitted. Here's one from Mediaite. They're verified using our footage from Christian Small's arrest that we got exclusively. Here's another one. Fox News, take it where you could get it. They're verified. Doing a write-up on Marianne Williamson calling out AOC's bullshit for dodging questions. Another one from Fox News. Amazon union organizer slams AOC for going radio silent. That was recent. So they asked for 3 articles in the last 6 months from verified news outlets. Fox, it's Republican propaganda, but it's certainly one of the bigger news outlets, or outlets, shall I say. I also showed a reference to CBS News linked to us. Not to mention our January 6th footage, historic footage, which freelancer John Farina shot for us, was licensed all around the goddamn world. CNN licensed it. MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, BBC, Showtime, PBS, AP Politics, Australian news networks, Japanese news networks, documentary filmmakers. News outlets with far less followers than Status Coup are verified. There is 0 credible reason why we have been denied. Twitter support, please explain this and correct the continued wrong denial. Now, I don't think it's just a crummy system and they're screwing up. I think there's human beings who are looking at it, whatever the reason, maybe it's the name, maybe it's the content, I don't know, that are intentionally and wrongly not verifying us. I need all of you watching. We got almost 300 watching to tweet at Twitter, at Twitter support with my tweet and say, why are you continually denying Status Coup verification when they meet your requirements? I'm talking like little blogs, little media blogs who certainly don't have write-ups from other news outlets referencing them are verified. I mean, on the individual basis, there are people with far less followers, not that they shouldn't be, getting verified. I, the CEO of Status Coup, am verified. So what is Twitter's excuse? And you can't get a human being. You cannot get a human being from Twitter, just like you can't get a human being from YouTube. That's how they've intentionally designed their system. So support means automated bots. We should be verified, and we should be verified now. Again, it's not for vanity. It's not for our ego. Yeah, if I change the name to Status Quo, we'll get verified very quickly. So please do me the favor. If you're on Twitter, follow us at Status Coup and tweet at Twitter support, And also sign up as a member. Sign up as a Status Coup member. We got a bunch of members over the weekend. We want to get more so we could do more on the ground reporting. I believe I'm going to be out on Friday. Amazon Labor Union is having a press conference. So these same media outlets that were revved up and cheering, I guarantee you they're not going to be at this press conference. I will be at the press conference on Friday. This reporting costs money, traveling, camera people, all of this costs a lot of money. And I would love to travel to Flint at the end of this month. It's the 8-year anniversary. They still don't have clean water. We need your help. Sign up, statuscoup.com/join, $5 to $10 a month. You can become a member. And we're having our members call Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern. Thursday night, 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 o'clock Pacific is our members call through Zoom. If you're a new member, you'll get the email link. If you're an existing member, you'll get the email link. If you're a patron, you'll get the email link. If you're a YouTube member, you'll get the email link. Let me read some super chats. Hold on. Double K, $49.99. Thank you so much, Double K. I really appreciate that. Kami John, $5. Ready to grumble on Tuesday? Must be my lucky day. Thanks, Status Coup. Having Steve on, he is legit AF. He is, and he'll be have his show Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern. Mark Fabian, $10. Student debt cancellation would be a huge economic boon for everyone, and Biden could do it without Congress. He sure could. Sure could. Lanadale hates the clock, $10. So hard to listen to that. #LearnMMT. Das Bosch Fleiss, €9.99. I wonder when the pro-life people will legalize manhunts for entertainment purposes. That is a really good prediction. You might be right. Prismathetic, $20. Tragic to hear about DC failing LGBT citizens. Don't care for marriage. I feel like it's unrealistic as a social contract, and I can't argue for it being beneficial. That's cool. Teresa, new YouTube member. Or Teresa, new YouTube member. Welcome. Yes, we love our YouTube members. Our preference is to sign up through our website. So that's statuscoup.com/join. But shout out to people who sign up through YouTube as well. But hey, we're trying to grow. We need your help to grow. So continue supporting us, whether it's a super chat. If you could become a member, great. $5 a month is 16 cents a day. If you can't financially support, you can sign up for our text list, statuscoup.com/text. statuscoup.com/text. And you can sign up for our email list. That's statuscoup.com. You'll get prompted to enter your email. Thank you for watching. Back at it tomorrow, 5 o'clock Eastern. If you haven't seen our other videos after this, go to the channel. Again, we had a new economic Hunger Games interview posted at 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll have another video posted at 8 o'clock Eastern. And I have some other videos that I'm going to be, interviews I'm going to be doing tomorrow. Thanks again. See you tomorrow.